Welcome to another Real Estate Talk Show, featuring highlights of the best interviews from our national real estate radio show. Here's another property expert.
Chris Rolls from rentalexpress.com.au joins me once again. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Good, mate. We've got a query this morning from an owner who is questioning whether or not an agent should charge a fee. In this case, it's 10% for replacing carpet. They're basing this, Chris, on the fact that it's a renovation, and this is in addition to what they would normally do. Is that reasonable?
That's a good question. First of all, it's important to point out it depends on what the owner has in place on the property agents and motor dealers agreement that they have with them. And so that's called a Form 20A, which as an owner you need to enter into an agreement with the agent. It's a standard form. So first of all, if it's got on that agreement that the agency can charge 10% of the cost of renovations for doing renovations, then certainly they are legally allowed to charge that to the owner. I guess what it comes down to then is whether or not replacing the carpet is in fact a renovation or whether it's just maintenance that needs to be done. So that's a point that you need to sort of determine: is this a renovation or is it actually maintenance?
Well, let me just ask you the question here: is it normal, if I'm doing a renovation, for the agent to charge me that fee anyway? Is that no? I've never heard of that.
Well, actually, the answer is yes. One of the things that some property investors get a little bit mixed up on is to what their property managers actually do. As property managers, our job is to manage the property, which is obviously dealing with all the tenancy issues, tenants, maintenance, those sorts of things. Our job as property managers is not to renovate your property for you, because obviously it becomes a point of what's reasonable and what's not. For example, if you wanted your property manager to organise painters to repaint the entire house, to rip up the carpet and polish the floorboards, to landscape the yards, that's not their job. Their job is to make sure tenants are in there, make sure tenants are paying the rent, the property's looked after, etc., etc.
Okay, well, here's another question then for you. I'm a remote landlord, and my managing agents come to me and said, look, carpet's a bit worn out, needs to be replaced. Is that fair that they would then charge me 10% to do some work they recommended I should do?
And that's the grey area. And I would say in that scenario, no, it's not fair, because in my opinion, that's not a renovation. That is maintenance that needs to occur over a period of time. So if the carpets have been there for 10 years and you've had 10 or 12 sets of tenants move out in and out that time and the carpet is worn out, I would place that in the maintenance category. And at Rental Express, that would be considered to be routine maintenance that needs to be done periodically, and we would organise that for you as part of our management agreement. And that's in most cases, most agencies would do that. So it really depends in this particular situation a little bit on, is it a replacement of carpet because the carpet is worn, or is it replacement of carpet because they want to, renovate the house and they're doing other things as well? And that's probably the grey area you need to, we probably need a little bit more information to say, yes, that's fair or it's not.
Well, Simon wasn't specific on that, so I guess we've got to take that point. I think you've made that point very clear. Can I ask you one other quick question before we go? Got about a minute left.
Absolutely.
The rental market at present seems to be softening a bit. I've heard from a number of owners who are saying it's not as easy now to get a tenant as it used to be.
That is absolutely true. In fact, the rental market in Queensland is probably the softest I've seen in probably 6 or 7 years. So vacancy rates are creeping up, inquiry is decreasing, which is a bit of a concern for investors. Now, don't get me wrong, it's certainly not at record levels, but one of the things that property investors need to keep in mind is they need to be probably a little more conservative when it comes to increasing their rent.
What's the average amount that they have to reduce it by from the asking price to get a tenant in there? Is there a percentage?
It's very hard to say. I mean, it depends, first of all, on what you rented it for last time and how your property compares to market value now. But I've seen some properties where owners have reduced rent by 10 to 15%.
Wow.
However, I'll just put a little proviso on that. That's because previously they may have had it at a price that was really right up there from a market value perspective. There are still properties that are coming up that I see that we're still managing to get small rent increases on. So, a lot of it depends on the actual individual circumstance of the property. And it's hard to say. There's no sort of one formula that says you're going to need to reduce your price by 10% or whatever in order to rent it. That's not the case.
Keep an eye on it. If you're a landlord, you've got a property that maybe you can't rent, let us know. Send me an email and we might even just give it a free plug for you. 13 13 32 is the number. Just let us know. And, mate, thank you very much for your time. Look forward to talking to you next week.
Absolutely, Kevin. I'll speak to you then.